Hi there again, everyone. This is Bob Martin with RCSub.com and the Nautilus Dry Docks, and wanted to share with you another RC Submarine project. This is a little 31-inch remote-controlled Disney Nautilus submarine. It turned out great. I want to share with you how it turned out. So let's take a look. This is a Pelican case, and not cheap, but they're really, really high quality. And the neat thing about this is obviously very durable. They're actually waterproof as well. This particular one also has wheels, which means it's great for transporting. So you can see it's got a handle. You can simply tow it to and from the pond, making it very, very easy to do. So let's get into a little bit of the details about how the model is put together and how it operates. So I'm going to go grab the case, we'll put it on the workbench here and we can take a look at it. Alright, so looking at this case, you can see that there's actually 5 latches. There's a safety switch you depress, pop everything open. And if we open it up, we can now see what's inside. So this is the foam-lined transport case, the Pelican case. Everything is nestled in there really tightly, so you can drop the case on its side or upside down. It wouldn't really matter. Everything will stay firmly in place. So just taking a look at what we've got a 6-channel Airtronics radio and charger for it. Obviously the model itself. We have the main drive cylinder. This is a Caswell subdriver. We have the rudder insert that goes in here, the clear plastic insert for better turning radius. And we've got the battery charger, and then underneath the battery charger are all of the associated cables. Okay, now let's move on to the actual operation and setup for the model, pre-pond sort of checklist. What we got right here is the display base, and this is really a display base. This was one that I would actually use down at the pond, and you would want something like that so that you can set the model down where it's not going to roll around, and you'd probably want something a little bit more utilitarian. What a lot of people do is they'll build it out of PVC. They'll put longer handles on it so that you can actually dip it underneath the water and lift the model out without having to bend over, which is great if you've got a pond like with a retaining wall on the side. You don't want to reach down and fall in. That's a little bit embarrassing. So that's something that would need to be put together. But for now, I'm just going to put the model on this display base that I built, and this is a sheet of acrylic, and it was painted gloss black on the back, and the model looks pretty great once it's sitting on there. So let me go grab it and we'll get into it. Alright, so here's our model itself. As you can see, it's been nicely weathered up, looks really realistic. It turned out actually very well. This particular model does not have operational running lights, but it still looks really breathtaking on and under the water. So if you take a look at the side here, this is about the only seam that's visible on the model, and I don't know if you can even see it from back here, but this is the only actual split in the upper or lower hull sections. The rest of it is actually the existing seam, which it runs right under the side keels, which means that it's basically virtually invisible unless you really, really look for it. And certainly not when it is in the water, as that part is under the water. So in order to gain access to the model, one of the things about RC subs that's a little bit frustrating is having to undo screws, lose screws, and that sort of a thing. And so what I do is I actually utilize the RAM as a retaining pin. So in order to get access to the model, you basically just grab the forward ram, give it a little twist, and slip it out. Once that's out, you just lift up on the hull, and the entire thing comes out. So now what you can see inside here, we've got a little bit of ballast. This is lead rod in there. We've got some flotation foam back here, and our linkages. So before we go much further, I think what would also be beneficial would be to take a look at the back. Now this is obviously the business end of the submarine, and so we need to make sure that we have access to it. And with this back section on, that makes it a little bit difficult. So let's take a closer look at that area. Okay, so what you actually do to gain access, there's two little retaining pins underneath, and if you rub your finger, you can actually feel the little catches, and if you just grab them and pull them straight out, you can see these little retaining pins. So the one on the starboard, there's one on the port, and then once that's done, you just lift up and it comes right off. So now you can see, like I said, the business end of the submarine, and basically you have your drive shaft that goes into a universal joint and then into a swivel bearing in the back, and that allows for my tilting propeller arrangement, and that's how you basically handle pitch control on this submarine. Reason being that the stock dive planes in the original location of the Disney Nautilus are very, very close to the center line of the model, and they're also quite small. So my first scratch-built Nautilus, I actually utilized them for pitch control, and they basically did not work. And so what I've found over the years is that this tilting propeller arrangement gives you excellent pitch control without really having to mess around with, non-scale auxiliary dive planes or anything like that. So of course, the other thing that you need to do is have rudder control, and as you can see here, this is how I did it. I ran it down the support for the prop shroud, and it just bypasses the propeller and connects to the rudder arrangement there. The other thing to note, this is obviously a scale propeller. This is not the original propeller from the Nautilus, but it's a scimitar prop, and this will actually give excellent torque and bite into the water, as opposed to that sledgehammer style prop, and that's really important for an RC model. You obviously need to have a lot of forward momentum. In the past, I have utilized the stock propeller, and it does work, just not half as well as something like this would. Okay, now that we've got our model out here, we've got it on the bench, we're going to start prepping it for running at the pond. So I'm going to put my rear section back on, and really the only reason that you would have to have it off in the first place is for maintenance or repair. So it probably would not need to happen on a very regular basis, but certainly it's important to know. So again, you're going to take our brass retaining pin and just pop it into the hole in the side keel, press it in place. Once it's firmly seated, that's not going anywhere. So now the next important part of this is the cylinder, the main drive cylinder. And if we take a look at the cylinder in detail, we'll start at the front. This is the battery compartment, and there's two important things. One is obviously the battery. This is a lithium polymer battery. And the other thing is the on-off switch, and this is a magnetic on-off switch. Uses a magnet to turn on and off, and what that does is means that you don't need a switch protruding here, a mechanical one, so there's no hull opening that could potentially allow water to get in. Alright, moving forward, we've entered the area of the cylinder, which is the ballast tank. This is a little bit different than the past ones I've done. This actually utilizes a pump, a little air pump, to suck air into the ballast tank. So to vent the tank, a servo pushes this brass arm forward, which opens up this little vent, and the air basically escapes. To surface, you activate the air pump. It draws air from the surface, fills up the tank with air, displacing the water, and the model rises. And of course, the only way that that would really work is in a positively buoyant model, because you need to have the inlet for the ballast tank above the water line. And that's what this is. So this model is, for all intents and purposes, a version 2 dynamic diver. I have found that that's actually the best setup for this. Very, very safe, because if something goes wrong, the model will always find its way up to the surface. Looking in here, I've got a 6-channel receiver. Again, that's the air pump. Got 3 servos in here. One is spare. It's not connected to anything, but it'll certainly offer a lot of flexibility for the owner in the future. And then we've got pitch control and rudder control here. This is the receiver antenna. So to install this in the model, you set the rear section in place and just basically push it forward. You take your prop shaft and line it up with the dog bone there, push it forward. You heard that little click. Both of these magnetic linkages snap into place. And then at the front, you basically line up the hole on the bulkhead there. Grab the one single stainless steel retaining bolt, drop it in place, a few turns, and it's completely locked down. So very, very simple installation and removal. Once that's all done, you just take the receiver wire, thread it around the outside. You get a nice long reach for that. Now here's the part where I was talking about before, drawing air from the surface. So this is an air hose, and in a very sneaky fashion, what that does is it goes up into the top of the model, through the dorsal fin, and through this very small opening in the top, and that's where the model will draw air from. Now, usually, I would leave this air line simply attached to the cylinder, but it's very easy to put on, as you can see. I'm going to line up the tab in the back, give it a little press, make sure that my air line is not trapped by the hull as I drop it down here. Snaps in place, give it a little squeeze, and there you go. Basically ready for operation at the pond. Alright, so let's take a look at the actual RC operation. So here's the Airtronics 6-channel radio system. The way I've got it set up right now, throttle on the left stick, ballast tank goes on the right. To vent the tank, you move the stick to the right, and that will drop the model lower to its submerged water line. On the other side, we've got our pitch control and our rudder. And the only other one that you need to worry about is right here, and this is the switch for the air pump that will fill the tank back up. So this is to dive, and this is to surface. Very simple setup. So let's take a look here. I'm going to turn my radio on right now. See, I've got full battery charge. Extend my antenna. Let's get back into the model here. Pull the front. Lift up. Okay. So the battery is connected right now. And this is the important part that you need to look at, and that's that magnetic switch. And this is the sensor for it right on the front. And the only thing that you need to do to turn the model on is take your key, we'll call it, and this is basically just a magnet in a piece of brass tubing, and you run it over the sensor. Cylinder is now turned on. So if we take a look at things here right now, I'm going to try and do this all one-handed. Let's check our ballast vent here first of all. See that moving? A little vent in the top is opening up. And we'll check our air pump. So if we really wanted to check and make sure that we're getting suction without leaks, we'll turn it on and listen for the sound of the pump as we block off the vent, and we'll see what happens. So that's creating a vacuum inside. The pump's got to work harder, and that's how you basically know that it's working properly without any leaks. Moving to the back here, we can check our rudder and our pitch control. We can check our rudder and our pitch control. And of course the last thing is our throttle. And really the way that you can tell in our RC Submarine, if you've got your linkage is working properly, but most importantly the drive shaft system is how smoothly it operates at low throttle. So that's very, very low throttle. You can see it's nice and smooth, no binding, no catching, no rattling. Very, very important. So right now everything is basically ready for the pond. All we need to do now is button it back up, drop it in the water, and we are set to go.